Yeah, yeah, I read the book about 10 years ago, not long after it came out, and I was so struck by the story. I just found it so powerful, and I think that the way that Jeff Hobbs, talked about his friend. And really contextualizing the book as this real exercise in empathy and a way to look at these sort of complex issues from a really humane perspective, and it felt like the sort of thing that I wished that I had, when I read it, it was like that it was something that was, it was on the tip of your tongue or something, an idea that was on the tip of your tongue, but you'd never articulated. And it just felt very clear to me, when I read the book, about these intersections of Rob's life, how this sort of confluence of things put an enormous amount of pressure on him, and that sort of responsibility that he felt to family, to community, the issues, the sort of more systemic issues around housing and education and the criminal justice system, and how these things found their way into his life and really impacted the way that this very brilliant young man, this sort of credit to his community, to his country, to all of the things that you want any young person to be, and all of that cut short because of the circumstances that he found himself in, and it really it sort of struck me that it would be amazing to try to take this further, to really investigate Rob's story on film. And when Antoine Fuqua and Rebecca Hobbs approached me about adapting the book and directing it, I was so excited to dive in. There was a lot of things. It's a big book. It's a big book in terms of story, thematically. It's a lot of stuff, and it's a life, and it's another
Yeah.
man's shoes, and all of that complexity, and trying to kind of distill that down. And I think as a writer, what you want to do is you have to take it from the point of view of the personal. You know, when you're adapting a book, I think you start from that point. It's like, what are the things in this that really speak to me, that I relate very directly to in my life? It's not that different in a way from being an actor, and how you
Wow.
understand scripts and how you understand character through your own experiences. That you and so in the adaptation, that was the process for me. I was like, there are so many themes and there's so many things in this story and Rob's story that I relate to, but what are the key ones that I relate to? Well, like everybody else, I understand the dynamics of family. I understand the dynamics of wanting to do the best for family, but also understanding how one needs to do the best for himself. What's unique, I think, about Rob's circumstance is how he and his community, is sort of looked at. And there is an element that happens in the States, especially around these issues, especially within the African American community, where people start to be very dismissive of the idea of somebody staying within a community, of belonging to that community, of trying to do, and they start to use words like, oh, he couldn't get out. There's a sense of failure. There's a sense of not being successful. It's not really used in any other capacity for any other group of people. My background, Nigerian. When I'm in Nigeria, when I travel back to Nigeria, when we have those relationships, you see, there are places in Nigeria that are very impoverished. There are places in where there's a lot of struggle, but nobody ever contextualizes my relationship to that as if it's inherently negative for me to
Right.
want to be there, to want to,
Right.
to engage. And so there was a lot that it struck me that I didn't feel had been talked about or really thought through in a certain way, especially in the kind of film and artistic landscape. And I think Rob's story, for that reason, made it very kind of important to me to try to explore.
I mean, the biggest, it wasn't a burden at all that it was a real living person, but that was really conscious on my heart. My private time when I did my own processes, I just wanted to honor the story because I knew that he had a mother, I knew he had a family, and I wanted to. Because how would I feel if somebody made a story about, I wanted to make sure it was on the honor code and it stayed as truthful as possible. What stuck out to me was, again, his commitment to family, his commitment to all of these responsibilities at the cost of like self. that is something I really wanted to investigate. Why are these things? Why these people? Where does this love come from? What is it about the past that makes him act a certain way he does now? And all of this was well written in the script. That I didn't have to do much. I didn't have to do much as the actor. It was in the writing. It was in the. It was in my own personal experience that I had prior to even doing the movie. So these were lived things that I already had churning in me. It was a timing thing, and it lined up perfectly. Me and Rob have the same middle name, and so these little synchronicities, they're little hints.
I think, I mean, I just immediately upon reading the script, I was just like, this is such a powerful story. And I saw Rob's story in so many people. And I just could see how it was a possibility for it to be reflected in a film where so many people could see it and feel empathy and feel and really look at the complexity of this person's life with just that level of like, I don't know, like being like, huh, this brilliant man, um, that reframe of like, not like he couldn't get out, but it's complicated. Like, he has these ties to his family, and that's also was a beautiful part of him. It wasn't a failure like by any means. So really like reassessing those like perspectives that we have and those judgments that we have. Yeah, I just felt like it was a story that needed to be told, and um, I just love like stories that I feel like are told in like nuanced and complex ways, like without judgment or binaries, because I think like that's that's how we all kind of need to practice our thinking, and it just makes us more human and it makes us more connected to each other. First of all, I'm just such a big fan of like film and TV. Like I love consuming it. I love watching it. I love stories. Um, and I think like I really enjoy acting and I love good stories. So I think like when I read the script, I was like, this is just an incredible story. And getting to work with someone like Chiwetel, I was just like, who I've been such a big fan of. I was just like, this is just an amazing opportunity. And also, as somebody who hasn't done a lot of acting, I just felt like working with somebody who's like such an incredible actor. Not to blow your head up, but I was just like, I just felt like I was like in such great hands. Like that made me feel more relaxed and at ease when I could just feel like I could trust somebody who could just guide me.
I think I thought that I would have this sort of a shorthand of how I was going to do things, but then, I realized pretty quickly that actually it doesn't work like that. Every film is different, and every film needs to be approached in a kind of different way. Every film has different challenges, and I think you get more adept at understanding what the challenge, thinking about how you need to think about this particular film project is the way to then engage with it, and so that was something that I was learning, that I needed to think differently about this than stuff that I had done, but than the film that I'd done before. And it's only really after the filming and after editorial that the thematic ties start to kind of come through in a way. Like I sort of, when I was starting to watch, the film back, that's when there were certain things that obviously that were thematically connected to The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, the father and son relationship, the families, but there were other things. There were just the sort of there were certain tonal things. There were certain sort of mise en scène things that I didn't necessarily think I was putting in, but but are in both films. And I started to understand what my artistic journey is. It started to reveal itself who I am as a director. And that is the. I don't know if you can write into that. I don't know if you can direct into that. I think that is just becomes your signature, becomes the stories that you tell. Yeah, it's a part of your own artistic spirit.
I mean, I love what Jay you said about just honoring the story. I feel like that was like something that I came into set with every day, and I feel like we all did, was in this person's life was so valuable and meaningful, and at the same time in their there are so many other people's unique, that have their own unique fingerprints that also, had lives that were kind of, that had the same kind of challenges, or were met with the same systems, with the hardships of the same systems. So I think, yeah, I think like that, honoring that. I don't know. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
I think it's what we've all been
Yeah.
talking about, is that this idea of that this is that social mobility is something that we kind of tend to be slightly dismissive of
Yeah.
in our culture. Just the challenges that are inherent in that. For some people, very greatly, very strongly, feel very specific difficulties in these kinds of movements. And so having that empathy, having that understanding of the people that are challenged by this, the way they're challenged by it, seeing that in somebody like Rob Peace, a very brilliant person who's not here with us now, it allows us to investigate a better allyship, to sort of start to think about what people are going through and what their responsibilities are for themselves, what they've taken on board, and how they're challenged by the different environments that they might find themselves in, and how we can better help that process.
I love telling stories about just the average person, just the average day-to-day non-superhero, non-Clark Kent average person, just everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's what drew me to it, and I think that's what is most relatable about the piece. And no pun intended, but I think the movie also has so many complexities that to take away one thing from it, I will be robbing them of an experience, because there's so many layers to it. You got family, you have. I don't even want to go into it. It's just full. The depth of it is full. The well is full, and so I just think the movie just needs to be watched. The movie just needs to be taken in.